Dear learners, welcome back to WSE True Stories, where English learning becomes an unforgettable adventure. Here, we don't just study language, we journey through the lives of the world's most inspiring people. Today, you're about to discover one of the most powerful stories ever told, a tale not of wealth, war, or fame, but of one man's search for peace, purpose, and truth. This is the story of Gautama Buddha, a prince who had everything, but gave it all up to walk barefoot into the unknown. His was a life that began in golden palaces, surrounded by luxury and celebration. But deep inside, a question stirred: why does suffering exist? He left behind a kingdom, a newborn child, and a devoted wife, not for ambition, but for awakening. His journey was long, filled with trial and silence, but what he found changed not only his life, but the lives of millions. Even today, centuries later, his teachings continue to echo across the world, guiding people toward inner peace. This is not just a story. It's a path, a mirror into our own hearts. Improve your English, yes. But more than that, let this story inspire your soul. Get ready for one of the most transformational, moving stories you've ever heard. Let's begin the journey. Over 2,500 years ago, in the lush foothills of the Himalayas, there was a small but prosperous kingdom known as Kapilavastu, nestled in what is now modern-day Nepal. This was a time of powerful kingdoms, rich spiritual traditions, and deep philosophical inquiry. India was a land of great contrasts, lavish wealth and deep poverty, rigid social hierarchies and wandering ascetics, sacred texts and silent suffering. Into this world, a child was born who would one day change the course of human history. His name at birth was Siddhartha Gautama, and he was no ordinary child. He was born into the Sakya clan, a noble warrior family. His father, King Suddhodana, ruled with pride and prosperity. His mother, Queen Maya, was known for her grace and kindness. According to legend, before his birth, Queen Maya had a vivid dream of a white elephant entering her side, an auspicious sign interpreted by sages as the arrival of a child destined for greatness. Not long after Siddhartha's birth, wise men were summoned to read the newborn's future. What they foresaw was remarkable: the child would become either a great king or a great spiritual teacher. King Suddhodana, determined that his son should choose the path of rulership and not renunciation, made a decision that would shape Siddhartha's early life. He would shield the boy from all pain, suffering, and ugliness. And so, young Siddhartha was raised in complete luxury. He lived in 3 palaces, each built for a different season: spring, summer, and winter. No sorrow was allowed near him. He was surrounded by music, art, beauty, and endless pleasures. Servants fulfilled his every need, and gardens bloomed wherever he walked. His days were filled with joy, but also a quiet sense of incompleteness. Even as a child, Siddhartha was not like the others. He was calm, observant, and deeply thoughtful. While other children played noisily, he often sat beneath trees in silent reflection. On one occasion, while watching a farmer till the soil, he noticed a worm struggling in the turned earth, and a bird swooping down to eat it. That moment, so small, so ordinary, planted a seed in his mind. Why must living beings suffer? What was the meaning behind this cycle of birth, struggle, and death? But these questions would remain buried for years. The king ensured his son saw only the illusion of perfection. Yet no palace wall is high enough to keep the truth out forever. And one day, the truth would come riding in on a chariot, and nothing would ever be the same again. Siddhartha Gautama had reached his 20s. Handsome, intelligent, and graceful, he was everything a king could wish for in a son. To secure his place in the royal lineage, his father arranged a marriage to the beautiful Princess Yashodhara, a woman as kind and refined as she was radiant. Together, they lived in splendor, and soon, they had a son named Rahula, whose name meant fetter, a subtle foreshadowing of the chains Siddhartha would feel pulling on his soul. King Suddhodana believed he had done it, secured his son's future as ruler. He tightened the golden veil of comfort around Siddhartha even more. Yet, even the softest silk cannot quiet a restless heart. Despite all the pleasures of the palace, Siddhartha began to feel a stirring, a deep, aching curiosity about the world beyond the gates. The perfect harmony that had once surrounded him now seemed strangely incomplete. Was this all there was to life, feasts, festivals, music, and mirth? One day, Siddhartha finally persuaded his father to allow him to venture beyond the palace walls. The king agreed but secretly ordered that only the healthiest, happiest, most beautiful people lined the streets of the city. But fate had other plans. On that fateful journey, Siddhartha encountered four sights that would shatter his illusions forever. First, he saw an old man, bent with age, walking slowly with a cane. "What is this?" he asked his charioteer. "Why does he look like that?" The charioteer replied gently, "That is old age. It comes to all of us." A cold realization crept into Siddhartha's heart. If all living beings grow old, what becomes of youth, of beauty, of strength? Next, he saw a sick man, writhing in pain, coughing, his body pale and frail. Again, Siddhartha asked, and again the answer came, "Sickness touches all, rich or poor, king or servant." Then, he saw a funeral procession. A lifeless body being carried on a wooden platform, surrounded by weeping mourners. Death. The great equalizer. The end of all things. The prince was shaken to his core. His world of comfort had never revealed such truths. These glimpses tore down the golden curtain of ignorance. He realized that no amount of wealth or power could protect anyone from aging, illness, or death. Finally, he saw something unusual, a man in simple robes, walking barefoot, with a serene expression on his face. This man had renounced everything, seeking truth and peace. He was a wandering monk, a renunciant. Something stirred inside Siddhartha then, a strange mix of sorrow and longing. That calm man had seen the same truths, yet bore no fear or sadness. In him, Siddhartha saw the possibility of a different kind of life, one not chained to suffering, but seeking liberation from it. When Siddhartha returned to the palace, he was not the same. The music no longer enchanted him. The feasts felt empty. The silk robes, the golden ornaments, the scented gardens, all seemed like illusions masking a deeper truth. The seed planted in his childhood had now begun to grow. The questions that once lay dormant now burned inside him. What is the cause of suffering? Can it be overcome? Is there a path to lasting peace? And so, in the stillness of the night, while his wife and son lay sleeping, a prince stood silently at a crossroads. But the road ahead demanded more than questions. It demanded everything he had ever known. The weight of those four sights pressed heavily on Siddhartha's heart. Night after night, he wrestled with a restless spirit that could no longer find peace within the palace walls. The royal chambers, once a sanctuary, now felt like a gilded cage. One evening, as the palace lay deep in sleep, Siddhartha made a decision that shocked everyone who knew him. With quiet resolve, he slipped away from the golden fortress, leaving behind his crown, his wife Yashodhara, and his beloved son Rahula. His heart ached, but the call for truth was louder than any bond. Clad in simple robes, Siddhartha stepped into the dark unknown. His journey was no longer about worldly pleasures but a profound quest to understand suffering and find a way beyond it. He first sought the company of learned teachers and sages in the forests of the Himalayas. There, under the canopy of ancient trees and beside serene rivers, he studied meditation, philosophy, and the nature of existence. He absorbed their teachings like a sponge, mastering breathing techniques and mental discipline. Yet, the answers remained elusive. Siddhartha realized that knowledge alone could not free him from the suffering he witnessed everywhere. So, he adopted a more extreme path. He practiced severe asceticism, fasting until his body was frail and weak, subjecting himself to harsh self-denial. Days passed with little food or water, his body a mere shadow of its former strength. His friends, also seekers of truth, watched in worry and admiration. They believed that by weakening the body, the spirit might rise higher. Siddhartha's determination was unwavering, but the toll on his health was immense. Despite his suffering, the ultimate peace and enlightenment he sought still evaded him. He felt trapped between extremes, indulgence in luxury, which he had left behind, and the harshness of asceticism, which brought pain but no lasting freedom. One day, as he rested beneath a tree, Siddhartha recalled a melody his mother once sang, a lullaby about balance and harmony. In that quiet moment, an insight began to dawn: extremes might not hold the key. Perhaps, the path lay in the middle, a middle way between indulgence and self-mortification. He resolved to nourish his body enough to regain strength but continue his spiritual discipline with focus and clarity. This new understanding led him to a calm riverbank, where he accepted a bowl of rice milk from a kind village girl. As he ate, he felt the first stirrings of renewed energy, a sign that his body and mind could be partners on this journey, not enemies. With renewed vigor, Siddhartha sat beneath a large fig tree, later called the Bodhi tree, and pledged to meditate until he discovered the truth he sought. The night was silent except for the rustle of leaves and his steady breath. His mind faced countless battles, temptations, doubts, and fears, but he remained steadfast. Shadows of Mara, the demon of illusion and desire, tried to lure him away, offering visions of power, pleasure, and fear. Yet Siddhartha saw through the illusions, holding firm to his quest. Hours turned into days, and days into weeks. Finally, just before dawn, a profound stillness enveloped him. He experienced a series of deep realizations about the nature of suffering, attachment, and the path to liberation. He saw clearly the roots of suffering in craving and ignorance and understood the way to end it through ethical living, mental discipline, and wisdom. Siddhartha Gautama was no longer just a prince or a seeker. He had become the Buddha, the awakened one. But this was not the end of his journey. The awakening brought new challenges: how to share this wisdom with others, how to inspire change in a world still tangled in suffering. As the first golden rays of dawn stretched across the sky, Siddhartha Gautama sat beneath the Bodhi tree, the weight of his meditation lifting like morning mist. In that moment, clarity washed over him. He had awakened to the truth of existence. But the real test of his transformation was just beginning. Rising from his seat, the Buddha felt a new purpose surging within him. This was not a truth to keep hidden beneath the tree but a light to illuminate the dark corners of human suffering. He knew the path ahead would be difficult, many would resist, many would doubt, but the message of peace, compassion, and liberation could not be silenced. Yet, before he could spread his teachings, he faced an internal struggle. The knowledge he gained was profound but complex. How could he express it in a way that touched the hearts of ordinary people? How could he reach those trapped in cycles of pain and ignorance? With resolve, the Buddha set out from the forest, seeking the very people who most needed to hear his message. Word quickly spread of the prince who had renounced his throne and endured years of hardship to seek truth. Some were skeptical, others curious, but many were drawn by the promise of hope. His first listeners were the 5 ascetics who had earlier walked with him on the path of self-denial. At first, they were puzzled and even offended by his new teachings. "You have abandoned the path of renunciation," they accused him. "How can this middle way bring enlightenment?" But the Buddha spoke with gentle conviction, explaining the 4 noble truths: that suffering is universal, that craving is its root, that it can be overcome, and that the Eightfold Path offers the way to freedom. Slowly, his words began to resonate. The ascetics, once his peers in harsh discipline, became his first disciples. Yet, his mission was not without opposition. Many religious leaders and rulers viewed his teachings as a threat to the established order. They challenged his ideas, questioning a man who claimed awakening without divine authority or royal power. In the bustling towns and villages, the Buddha encountered poverty, sickness, and despair. These encounters deepened his compassion. He taught that suffering was not a punishment but a condition to be understood and healed through mindfulness, kindness, and ethical living. One day, while traveling, the Buddha met a wealthy merchant named Anathapindika. Moved by the Buddha's wisdom, the merchant offered his home as a sanctuary where the Buddha and his growing community of followers could gather and teach. This generosity marked a turning point. The Buddha's message began to reach a wider audience: farmers, artisans, women, and even kings. His teachings crossed social boundaries, offering a path accessible to all, regardless of status or background. Yet, the Buddha remained humble. He emphasized that true enlightenment required personal effort and inner transformation. "Be a lamp unto yourselves," he urged. "Do not rely on others for your liberation." Amid growing fame, the Buddha faced the challenge of ensuring his teachings remained authentic and practical. He guided his followers with compassion but also strict discipline, encouraging meditation, ethical conduct, and wisdom. But with such rapid growth came tension. Some followers misunderstood the path, seeking miracles or easy answers. The Buddha patiently reminded them that the journey required patience, insight, and courage. Through all these challenges, the Buddha's inner peace remained unshaken. His life embodied the very truths he taught: compassion without attachment, strength without violence, and wisdom rooted in experience. And as the sun set on his decades of teaching, the Buddha prepared to face his final great test: how to leave a lasting legacy that would guide millions long after he was gone. Years passed, and the Buddha's teachings spread far and wide. His community of followers grew into a vibrant sangha, a gathering of monks and nuns dedicated to living the path he revealed. But with growth came new challenges, and the true test of his journey approached. Despite his serene presence, the Buddha was not untouched by sorrow. He witnessed the pain of those close to him, friends who struggled to live by his teachings, followers who doubted their own path, and communities torn by old rivalries. His own family, the royal lineage he had left behind, sometimes questioned his choice to abandon power and comfort. One fateful moment brought this conflict to a sharp edge. A young disciple, overwhelmed by the difficulties of the spiritual path, asked the Buddha a difficult question: "Master, why should we endure suffering when the world offers so many pleasures and joys? Is renunciation the only way?" The Buddha looked deeply into the disciple's eyes. He understood that true freedom was not about escaping life but embracing it fully, with wisdom and compassion. Yet, he knew the path was not easy. It required sacrifice, inner strength, and the courage to face pain without fear. At this turning point, the Buddha made a profound choice. He could continue teaching only a small circle of devoted seekers, or he could reach out to the broader world, including those living in material wealth, political power, and everyday struggle. To do so, he needed to simplify his teachings without losing their essence, making them practical and accessible. This decision meant sacrifice, not of possessions or titles, but of pride and certainty. It meant embracing uncertainty, walking alongside people from all walks of life, and accepting that not all would understand or follow his path. The Buddha's sacrifice was also deeply personal. He had to let go of attachment even to his own fame and identity as a spiritual leader. He reminded himself and his followers that the goal was liberation for all beings, not personal glory. As his teachings spread beyond the forests and monasteries, the Buddha faced opposition from established religious authorities and political rulers. Some sought to discredit him, fearing his message of equality and inner freedom would upset the status quo. But the Buddha remained steadfast. He taught with patience and humility, meeting hostility with compassion. His life became a powerful example of the values he preached: nonviolence, forgiveness, and unconditional love. The greatest sacrifice, perhaps, was his willingness to face death consciously and peacefully. Near the end of his life, the Buddha gathered his disciples and spoke openly about impermanence, the truth that all things change and pass away. He encouraged them not to cling to his physical presence but to continue the path he showed through their own efforts. All conditioned things are subject to decay. Strive on with diligence, he said gently. This ultimate lesson was a powerful choice, to inspire resilience and independence rather than dependence. It sealed his legacy as a teacher who walked the talk, embracing life's hardest truths without fear. And so, the Buddha's climax of conflict was not a battle with enemies or external foes, but a profound inner sacrifice, choosing love over ego, humility over pride, and liberation over attachment. This sacrifice paved the way for his greatest achievement, a lasting impact that would inspire millions to seek their own path to peace and awakening. The Buddha's teachings began to flourish like a bright lotus blooming amidst the muddy waters of human suffering. His message of compassion, mindfulness, and the middle way, the balanced path between extremes, offered hope to countless people trapped in cycles of pain, greed, and ignorance. Communities across regions started forming, where monks and lay people alike practiced meditation, kindness, and ethical living. The Sangha became a beacon of spiritual refuge and moral guidance. Stories of personal transformation multiplied. People once lost in anger or despair found peace, families once torn apart healed, and even rulers sought the Buddha's counsel for wise leadership. One of the greatest victories was the profound shift in how people viewed suffering. Instead of fearing or avoiding it, they learned to understand its causes and to cultivate compassion for themselves and others. This insight spread beyond the spiritual circle into the daily lives of common folk, farmers, merchants, craftsmen, who found new strength in patience and forgiveness. The Buddha's teachings crossed social and cultural boundaries, breaking down rigid caste divisions that had long kept society fragmented. He welcomed all, rich or poor, men or women, high-born or low-born, emphasizing the potential for awakening in every heart. His impact was not just spiritual but social, planting seeds of equality and human dignity that resonated through generations. His words inspired reforms in how communities cared for the sick, supported the needy, and valued peace over violence. The Buddha himself continued to embody his teachings with humility. He traveled widely, teaching wherever people gathered, underneath banyan trees, in bustling villages, or royal courts, always accessible, always patient. A powerful symbol of his victory was the serene image of the Buddha in meditation, eyes half closed, a gentle smile hinting at profound inner freedom. This image became a universal reminder that peace is possible amid life storms. His achievements also included the codification of his teachings into sutras and the establishment of ethical precepts for monks and lay followers. These frameworks ensured the preservation and integrity of his message for future generations. Perhaps the most extraordinary success was the transformation of his own life, from a sheltered prince, Gautama Siddhartha, into the Buddha, the awakened one, who showed the path to liberation through wisdom and compassion. His legacy became a timeless source of inspiration worldwide. Over centuries, millions found guidance in his path, adapting his teachings across cultures while maintaining the core message, that inner peace and enlightenment are within reach for all who sincerely seek them. Yet, despite the broad influence, the Buddha's path remained personal. Every step on the way to enlightenment required effort, courage, and self-discovery. His life story reminded followers that true victory is not in external power or fame, but in the quiet triumph of understanding and love. This victory was not the end but a new beginning, as the Sangha and teachings continued to grow and evolve long after the Buddha's passing, influencing art, philosophy, and social values across Asia and beyond. The ripple effect of his enlightenment touched hearts and minds through the ages, offering a way to live with meaning, compassion, and joy amidst life's inevitable suffering. And still, the journey of inner peace beckoned countless souls forward, inspired by the Buddha's unwavering example. The story of Gautama Buddha is not just a tale of a man who sought enlightenment, it is a timeless beacon of hope, wisdom, and transformation that continues to inspire millions. From his early life as a sheltered prince to his courageous decision to renounce all worldly comforts, the Buddha's journey reflects the profound human quest for meaning and peace. His legacy teaches us that true happiness does not come from external wealth or power but from understanding the nature of our own minds and hearts. The path he walked, the middle way, reminds us that balance, mindfulness, and compassion are the keys to overcoming life's inevitable challenges. Buddha's life is a testimony to resilience and courage. Facing the suffering of the world, he chose not to run away but to look deeply within, confronting his fears and doubts. In doing so, he discovered universal truths that transcend culture, time, and circumstance. This inner transformation, from ignorance to awakening, is a powerful reminder that change is always possible when we dare to seek it sincerely. His teachings on non-attachment, compassion, and the interconnectedness of all beings encourage us to live with kindness and empathy, breaking down barriers of selfishness and hatred. The Buddha's emphasis on personal responsibility for one's own awakening challenges each of us to look honestly at our lives and strive for growth. Importantly, his message was inclusive, welcoming everyone regardless of social status or background. This revolutionary idea planted seeds for social equality and respect that resonate even today. Moreover, the practical nature of the Buddha's path, meditation, ethical living, and mindful awareness, offers tools accessible to all, whether in moments of calm or in times of struggle. His life illustrates that enlightenment is not an abstract ideal but a reachable goal through sincere effort. As we reflect on his journey, we see a man who turned away from privilege not out of despair but out of hope, a hope that the world could be healed through understanding and peace. The Buddha's legacy challenges us to look beyond surface appearances and to seek the deeper truths that unite us all. It invites us to cultivate compassion, patience, and courage in our own lives. His story is a call to awaken, to embrace our own potential for wisdom and kindness, and to walk the path toward inner peace and freedom. As the Buddha once said, thousands of candles can be lighted from a single candle, and the life of the candle will not be shortened. Happiness never decreases by being shared. His life and teachings continue to light the way for those seeking peace in a complex and often troubled world. Dear learners, thank you for joining me on this unforgettable journey through the life of Gautama Buddha, a man who left behind a kingdom not out of despair, but out of a profound search for truth and peace. His story teaches us that no matter where we come from, or how difficult life may seem, the power to transform ourselves and our world lies within each of us. You have seen how Buddha's courage to face suffering, his patience in seeking answers, and his deep compassion for all beings changed not only his own life but the lives of millions across centuries. This is not just history, it is a living message, inviting you to embrace kindness, mindfulness, and resilience every day. I encourage you to share this story with friends and family. Let the wisdom of the Buddha inspire others as it has inspired you. By spreading these values, you carry forward a legacy of hope, unity, and freedom, gifts that our world desperately needs. If this story touched your heart and mind, please like, comment, and subscribe to WSE True Stories. Here, English learning becomes more than words, it becomes a path to understanding, inspiration, and growth. Until next time, keep learning, keep dreaming, and remember, the greatest journey begins with a single step inward. May your path be filled with peace and light. Goodbye for now.